Welcome to the Heirs podcast with Mavis Gregg and Otis Jennings. This episode, we dive into the fascinating world of forestry with a series of episodes all about trees and the unique challenges and opportunities faced by families owning forests. We are honored to have the renowned Sam Cook. This Sam Cook is no crooner, though. He is a forester who will guide us through the intricate realm of forestry and its significance for families with trees, including heirs property owners. Throughout this series, we'll shed light on the vital role of sustainable forestry practices in preserving and maximizing the potential of family-owned forests. From navigating the complexities of heirs property to understanding the economic, environmental, and social benefits of responsible land stewardship, we'll explore it all. We kick off the series by getting to know you, Sam, and what the life of a forester is like. How are you today?
Good morning or afternoon. I am doing well. You want to know the life of the forester?
You said good morning and or afternoon.
Yeah, could be. I don't know what time zone we're in.
Yeah.
Or who we're speaking to.
Because as a forester, you go across time zones.
I travel from east to west, north to south.
Oh, you're like a superhero forester, I think, right?
No. I don't know what that was.
Time zones.
Something got me choked out. No, it's not time zone change. It's more or less, as a forester, the life of my world is I work with many people, many organizations, and I spend time on a plane. Not like most foresters, we spend a lot of time in the woods. My early career part, I did a lot in the woods, so I think now I'm more and more in the air and dealing with people.
Wow. Okay. Okay, that's interesting. So you're at a stage in your career as a forester where you're like out there flying planes across the country.
Not as much flying planes, but on a plane.
Okay. All right.
I spend quite a bit of time working with organizations that don't live and work in the same space. We do a lot of virtual.
Okay.
I do quite a bit in the educational side of the business in forestry. Not as much like most foresters. They get up every day, they go out and they do inventory in the woods. I'm doing inventory around content.
Okay.
But I also focus with landowners who need services related not just to forestry, but air property owners, people that don't understand what forestry means or do not understand the whole natural resource aspect of the business.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I like this spoiler alert because it sounds like you do a lot of amazing things, but I want to know where you got started. So tell us a little bit about your
Career path?
No, not your career path. I want to know about Lil Sam. First of all, why are you named Sam Cook?
So
and then
Baby
where are you
Sam.
from? Yes, Baby Sam. Like, how does one, like yourself, what does that journey look like to becoming a forester? So start from the beginning when you were a kid. Did you decide you wanted to be a forester?
No, it was no decision. My dad was in working for a paper mill. Got up every day, and that was
in Alabama.
Alabama. My home is Linden, and this is outside of Selma.
Okay.
Most people would realize and know about where that is.
Yeah.
I spent time going to school, getting up every day, going working with Boy Scouts. First Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, Future Farmers of America, Extension, and all these things. But there was no term around forestry in my space or the world that I lived in. With my dad working at a paper mill and my brother working at a sawmill, chip mill along the way. My mother, with us having 6 or 7 kids, I'm the youngest, is what they call the knee baby, and second to the youngest. And she told my dad, my mentor, which I didn't know at that time was a mentor, but a good friend of the family, very close to my dad. But he was the shop teacher. He was a coach. He became principal along the way. She says, get my boy from being a sissy.
What?
I had no idea what she was talking about, but he picked me up every day and I worked with him.
Okay.
He was my scout leader. He was my coach. He was my mentor. He was everything,
Awesome.
like a second dad. So I remember one day he threw me in the water, says, I'm going to teach you how to swim. I go home and crying, and she says, I told my mom, I said, he tried to drown me. And he turned to her, and my mother's named Donnie, and she says, Donnie, leave us alone. You told me to take your boy and grow him up, and I did. He's standing here, he's not dead, so don't worry about him. And ever since then, I've learned from him. That venture was about not teaching me how to be a forester or teaching me how to be a person. It was more about learning something different, being exposed to something different. And I went from that episode to being an Eagle Scout, running the scout troop, working in Philmont, which is a big scout place out in, I think it's New Mexico, but just learning what it means to be on my own, but also growing up with others and working with others. Yeah.
And I feel like that's something that, you and I have in common. One, just curiosity about how things work, or curiosity about how things can be better.
Or to be exposed.
Yeah, just even exposure. And you and I mean, I'm a lawyer, you're a forester, and people are often surprised that we work together.
Or even get to know each other.
Yeah, but it sounds like your path, both on a personal level and a professional level, and your early curiosity and that being affirmed by this mentor, set you into a place where you could be working in different sectors and working with other professionals like myself. And same thing with me, like working with foresters is a very important part of my role. So tell us how you got to the point where you were working with lawyers. I mean, you went to school.
I did Tuskegee, left there and went to NC State. I'm back at NC State now, at a place that when I moved here in 1982, I got out of my vehicle and I said, I can retire here. Here I am, 40-some years later, in the career.
Head of
NC State's College of Natural Resources, forest asset side of the business. So I manage land, I earn income off the land, and I give the income back to the college with the dean's discretion. I also work as vice president of the Natural Resources Foundation, which means I just go out and ask people for money. But part of that journey is when I got back here in 2016, I decided that, I still want to continue to do work in the air property space, private landowner space, and organizational space, because the work that I did from around 2012 up to just say now, I got to see what it means to help people in a way that I never did before. In the corporate side of the business, my job was about buying wood and feeding the mill, working with organizations and people. The work that I did with the Center for Heirs Property Preservation through the U.S. Endowment for Forests and Communities allowed me to step back and say, everything I've done in my career has been hurting the same people that I'm trying to help today. And if I can step aside and really push to engage landowners, especially minorities and people of color, and to understand what it means for them to own land and retain land, I can see a different side of how my work can be beneficial.
Yeah.
And when I did that, I put that hat on in 2013. And I have not looked back. And I appreciate the fact that I've been able to meet people like yourselves, people that work for the Center for Heirs Property Preservation, people that are attorneys that are willing to step in and do the work to not just clear title, but to educate people around what it means to own and retain land.
Do you feel like, this is a personal question about me, do you feel disappointed that I still can't tell you the species of trees that we talk about?
Not really, because I
don't know why. It's like, They're pine needles. They look the same.
Well, to be clear and most likely to be honest, a lot of us as forests can't tell you the species of trees. I mean, just because we go through forestry school, that don't mean we're going to retain everything and tell you that, oh, that's a pine tree. That's that. We can tell you it's a pine tree, hardwood.
Okay.
But we're not really going to dig deep until we know exactly that that's X type tree.
Mm-hmm. And am I the only attorney friend of yours who will send you random pictures of trees and ask you either what species this is or why does it look like this?
You're the only attorney friend, but I have other friends that do that as well. What's good about you is you ask the question.
Okay.
But what I really appreciate about Mavis is you like what we do.
I love it.
And I think you love it. Mm-hmm. And I always brag on you because I said, I have this person who's an attorney that has no knowledge of what we do, but she stepped into the business and she's picked up enough that she's dangerous with it. In a way that she helps people understand our side of the business, but she still puts a legal spin on it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you.
And the day I met you in 2016, when I walked up on stage after you finished your talk, I said, I got to get to know you, and I want to be able to work with you. And we've done that.
Yes, we have. High five. Yeah. The day I saw you, I said, there's more than one Black Forester.
Yes.
So I'd love for you to talk about that. If you are listening to the podcast and not seeing any video, you may not know that Sam is an African American man. But that was also surprising to me, and quite frankly, because most of the Heirs property owners that I was working with were Black and had experienced a lot of predatory behavior, both from the legal system but also from the forestry sector. For me, knowing that they were Black foresters was encouraging because I knew that, wanting an attorney that looked like them, a lot of the clients likely want foresters that look like them. Will you talk a little bit about your experience in being a Black forester and maybe what it looks like in the present tense, and perhaps any pro tips for someone who's curious about taking that career path?
Yeah, it's probably the second part of my spiel that I tell people how much I work with bringing other young individuals into this space. The one thing that I took away from the whole career path is giving back. So I spent a lot of time, recruiting individuals that are young that need to know what we do, but also mentoring and coaching and providing job opportunities for them. My growth pattern was a little different than most people from the standpoint that, I was one of a few as being African American into the space, but I didn't let that hinder me on a career path. I probably came through different than most people, but I was able to spend my career working in the Forest Service, Duke Power, which is Duke Energy, International Paper Company. I own my own business, and now I spend time in academics, primary role. But for me growing up, I was around all people, but primarily when I say all, Caucasian and Black.
Okay.
Period. That's all I knew. Didn't know anybody else that looked different than me, but those two people. But what I learned when I got into forestry and traveled around for my early part of my career, I got to see there are different people, different landscapes, weather, everything. And it allowed me to open my eyes to be able to say, how do I help or work or bring people along? I'll be clear, I didn't like the first school I went to, but I had to learn to adjust to understand that's where I came from.
Yeah.
And it allowed me to open my eyes, and I spent a lot of time working with that school now. But I also spent a lot of time working with the younger generation to help them see that, one, there's a career, there's an opportunity, but it's a space you can love.
Yeah.
I get up every day not knowing exactly what I'm going to be doing for the day. Whereas most people get up every day, they know 8 to 5, they got to grind. They have no clue about what tomorrow exists. From my standpoint, I'm happy every day.
Yeah.
And I've spent time with you, and you've said this so many times, and I preach it to other people. He said, all foresters are happy.
Yeah.
I said, it's not that we just happy, we just enjoy what we do.
Yeah.
And we don't have limits.
Yeah. I mean, I really do think that if you put lawyers and foresters side by side, we are counselors, we're planners, we're problem solvers, we're advocates. We
many
work
hats.
closely with people in some of the most, intimate aspects of their lives. And on the lawyer side, the top 3 causes of death are all stress related.
Yeah.
Heart, addiction, and suicide. I mean, it's more than just stress, depression too. Whereas with foresters, you guys are so happy. And I do think a lot of it has to do with the fact that your work inherently involves connecting with nature and being outside, and also helping people in a way that is having an impact beyond their trees, but quite frankly,
I think it's all about the landscape, but I also say that all of us as foresters got into the business because we didn't want to deal with people. We wanted to be in the woods by ourselves. We wanted to talk to trees and nature. There's a very few of us that operate in the vein that I operate in.
Yeah.
But the majority of us have no choice.
Yeah.
And what I laugh about, I have this one foundation leader down in South Carolina, and she says, "You're the only forester I know that like people and can be around people." And I'm like, no, there's a lot more of us out there. A lot of us just don't show it.
Yeah.
And one thing I appreciate about what I get a chance to do is deal with people. I love people. I love the aspect of what we do with people. But most importantly, I like to get a person from one step to the other across the threshold.
Sweet.
And that's the work that we do together.
Yeah. High five. Sam, thank you so much for sharing about the work that you do and for doing the work that you do. Join us for our next episode where we will discuss forestry and the role of family-owned forests. If you're eager to dive deeper into the topics discussed on our show, visit our learning platform, deathanddirt.com, where we offer fun, self-paced courses to enhance your understanding. For more exciting tools and resources from Heirs, be sure to sign up on our newsletter at airshares.com. And don't forget to follow us on TikTok and LinkedIn for updates, behind-the-scenes insights, and engaging content.